Good morning, good afternoon, good evening on wherever you're joining us from the world. My name is Rosalie Olmsted. I am WiCyS Strategic Partner Coordinator. It is an honor to have you all here today, specifically with WiCyS Strategic Partner, JP Morgan Chase. But before we get started, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the WiCyS organization. We often go by our acronym WiCyS because that is exactly what we are, a global cyber sisterhood. WiCyS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to recruit, retain, and advance women in cybersecurity. Our community is made up of over 11,000 members worldwide in 103 different countries. We have 72 professional affiliates and over 311 student chapters. We offer a variety of initiatives and skills development programs, including our leadership series, the Job Board Plus Plus, Create Your Leading Edge, ISC2's Certified in Cybersecurity program, Stage Ready Public Speaking Fellowship, Mentor Mentee program, and so much more. We owe all of our wonderful initiatives and programs to all of our strategic partners who fund us year round. Our tier one partners being 3M, Akamai, Amazon, Bloomberg, Carnegie Mellon University, Cisco, Ford Motor Company, Google, Lockheed Martin, Optum, Sandia National Labs, SANS Institute, and SentinelOne. Please do not forget to ask questions throughout the webinar today. If you have a question, drop it in the box below, and we will be answering those questions during the Q&A portion at the end. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the WiCyS newsletter to stay up to date on upcoming events and programs. You can find it at wicys.org in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And with that, I will turn it over to Annie with JP Morgan Chase.
Thank you so much, Rosalie. All right, y'all, we have a lot going on today, but that's okay. We're going to get through this, okay? I'll start off by saying that I am a little bit under the weather. So my voice is different, but I'm committed to hosting this webinar. I may regret it later. We'll see how it goes. All right, so in this session, our speakers will share their unique experiences and success strategies, highlighting the values and skills they bring to their roles. They will also discuss the challenges of leadership and the importance of empowering others within the tech community. As Rosalie mentioned, feel free to post your questions in the chat. We will be addressing them towards the end of the webinar. I will start off by introducing myself, and then I will ask all the panelists one by one to introduce themselves too. So I am Cyber Risk Assurance Lead, working in JP Morgan. Been with JP Morgan for 2.5 years. It will be 3 years in September. In my current role, I am responsible for defining and maintaining cybersecurity standards for the firm and working with our product partners to ensure the implementation of the procedures meets the objectives of the controls. I'm also the co-lead for JP Morgan and Women in Cybersecurity Strategic Partnership and Conference Sponsorship. And this year, I've joined Women in Cybersecurity as a board member, which is very exciting because I get to provide input to the strategy and planning of the WiCyS conference and our programs. With that, I'm going to ask Katheryn to introduce her. Katheryn is not going to be on the video, but she's here with us today. Thank you for being here, Katheryn. Over to you for introduction.
Of course. Hi, everybody. So sorry I'm not here with you on video. This is a deep lesson in preparation and resilience. I thought that I was going to have no problem logging in today through the technology that we're using. So you only have me in voice, and I'm going to remain completely calm as a resiliency matter as we go through this. So please, you'll get my voice, but not all of me, and maybe that's okay because I probably could have had a better hair day in any case. So at JP Morgan, and I lead our regional information security as well as what we call supervisory engagement. So I wear a number of hats. Regional information security is the cybersecurity and tech and controls that we need to satisfy in all the countries we operate in across the globe. And our supervisory engagement function is looking at all of the engagement that we need to do with our regulators, with our clients when JP Morgan is a third party, and then the work that we do for public policy and advocacy for all matters of technology and cyber, as we do with policymakers around the globe as well. So a bunch of different hats, but the common thread is really regulatory matters and public policy matters, and we'll talk more about that in a bit.
Thank you so much, Katheryn. Zarina?
Thanks, Annie. Thank you, everyone, for attending this morning. I'm very glad to be here. My name is Zarina Shariff, and I work in JP Morgan's Cybersecurity Operations Group, leading our external cyber intelligence engagements with both the U.S. government intel community and financial sector groups such as the Financial Services ISAC. Prior to joining JPMC nearly 3 years ago, I worked at the National Security Agency for 18 years. I began my career as an intelligence and language analyst focused on Middle East affairs and counterterrorism, and eventually moved into the Russian cybersecurity operations mission, holding many engagement and leadership roles throughout. So looking forward to the discussion this morning.
Thank you so much, Zarina. I've always wanted to do more intelligence work. I've not had the opportunity, so maybe we should talk after the webinar.
Yeah.
All right, Jaleesa?
Hi, apologize in advance for any feedback that you may hear. Also, having to be really resilient. But a little bit about me. My name is Jaleesa Woods. I've been at JP Morgan for 4 years. I am a senior cybersecurity architect. In my current role, I am the lead of the Department of Excellence, focusing on community engagement and training. Prior to joining the firm, I was active in the Air Force with a background in as an intelligence analyst and computer network exploitation. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Nice, thank you, Jaleesa. Jaleesa, I will say I was not able to hear you clearly. Can you try and see if check your audio settings, maybe use a headphone that you were using a little bit earlier. I think that was better. Yeah. All right. So while Jaleesa is working on the audio, I'm going to say it again.
How about now? Is it a fix?
Oh, perfect. So much better. Awesome.
Thank you.
You want to do the intro again?
Yes,
Of
please.
course I would do it.
Okay.
Can hear it clearly this time.
Awesome.
Round 2. Being resilient. We got it. So good morning. My name is Jaleesa Woods. I am a senior cybersecurity architect at JP Morgan. In my current role, I serve as the co-lead for the Threat Model Center of Excellence. My focus area is in community engagement and training lead. Prior to joining the firm, I was active duty Air Force. My background is in Intel, so we have some things in common. And computer operation exploitation. So just a fancy way to say I like breaking into things. So I'm super excited for this opportunity and share my experiences with everyone.
Very nice. Thank you so much. So we have panelists with very diverse background here on call today. Jaleesa, I'm going to ask you the first question, which is, you just mentioned that, your military background. And my question is, did your background in the military help you in any way in the challenges of cybersecurity leadership? And what skills did you find most transferable in your current role as the Threat Modeling Center of Excellence lead?
That's a good question. So early on in my career, can you believe it or not, they put me in charge in 3 months of being in the Air Force when I was in tech school. And then on from there, just started my area of influence and my leadership opportunities expanded. My first one being when I got to my first duty station, being a mission manager, to being deployed and being in charge of 2 AORs, areas of operations, of responsibility, to my last role in the military where I was a junior NCO, and in my role I was in charge of planning and constructing our our training for computer network operations. When I was reflecting and in preparation for today's conversation, I had to look at the parallels of my time in the military and what I've been able to achieve in my current role. And the things that have made me successful, I believe, is finding the invisible problems, looking at the current systems and workflows that are in place and finding areas of improvement, and working with other skilled professionals to figure out how we can best solve this problem. And another thing that the military prepared me for is that they trained me to be not only a skilled cybersecurity professional, but they also spent a lot of time training me to become a leader. And one of the things that I had to get comfortable with is saying, I don't know. I think a strong leader can acknowledge that they don't know something and do their best to reach out to others to figure out, to find that answer. And that's how I feel I've been prepared to be a leader within cybersecurity.
Very nice. You share a great tip, and this is something that I think very early in my career, one of my mentors shared with me too, because I felt when I first joined that I had to know everything, and I would become really hard on myself if I didn't. And my mentor, he gave me the same tip. He said it's okay to say I don't know, and it's okay if you don't know, right? So it's a great tip you share, and definitely it's one of the tips that helped me in my career as well. Jaleesa, staying with you, the second question I have for you is, can you share an example of a project or initiative where leading with purpose made a significant difference in the outcome or the impact of a project?
Yes. So stay with me. I'm going to give you a little backstory. Before I got the job that I have now, and before I got this role, I myself was a threat model practitioner. And I had a lot, like I said, I look at processes and figure out areas of improvement. And then in my own team, we started our own threat modeling program, right, to answer for some of those questions that weren't yet solved for. And that program became successful, and people wanted to know about it, what made me successful. And my leadership partnered me with my current boss now, and asked me to showcase what I was able to accomplish. And he was impressed. And 6 months later, I have the role that I have now. So the project that had the most impact is that our team is currently in the middle of a transformation, right? We and the first step that we had to do was survey ourselves and figure out if our solution is end to end and where we can make improvements. And so one of the active things that I did was basically we surveyed ourselves. We identified our ugly baby, and we're like, we're going to fix it. And the first things that we did was we updated the threat modeling process at the firm. We created detailed playbooks that didn't exist before. Templates that allowed the product teams to understand these complex findings in threat modeling so that they can go in action on them and resolve those issues. So that would be one of the things that I'm most proud of in my current role, that I led myself with the help of others, and that has been having a great impact and been well received by the threat modeling community within the firm.
No, I can personally, vouch for that because I don't know if you joined around the same time, but I've seen Jaleesa's transition from, being the threat modeling practitioner to becoming the lead, and the transformation of the Center of Excellence as well. So great work there, Jaleesa. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, Katheryn, I'm going to be asking you the next question. What are the most significant risks that you have encountered in your current role? And how do you ensure that your team is empowered to address these challenges effectively?
Sure. And I think when you hear from Zarina, there'll be a little bit of an overlap here in terms of some of the work that we do, and we get to work directly together on a lot of things that are really fun. As I mentioned, my role is multifaceted, especially as you think about the regions. I have an operational role in the sense of people on the ground every day looking at the tech and risk controls that we have to execute to be compliant at the location level. And we say in cyber and tech, we're in 66 plus-ish countries in terms of where we have boots on the ground thinking about these areas and executing. And then I have this super external engagement group where we're really translating all that we're doing, not just in those locations, but globally in terms of representing our controls to our stakeholders. So the top of my list are geopolitical dynamics, regulatory compliance, the regulations and legislation that is emanating in this space, and then the dynamics of emerging tech. And all of these things start to become either Venn diagrams or concentric circles, whatever you're thinking that you like to proceed with, because we can't do one without the other, as it being financial services and such highly regulated entities. And so as we think about these areas, is where are we at risk in locations, whether that's vulnerabilities to certain cyber actors, or even more growing for us is our own regulators who are asking us for more and more sensitive data, which they're warehousing. We don't necessarily have the confidence that their cybersecurity is adequate to support and protect our own sensitive information, as well as just the increase in prescriptive regulations. So those are really the big buckets of things that I'm thinking about every day as AI comes on. What are the demands for cybersecurity views and tech controls to support that AI? Blockchain the same. Where's that intersection for security and policy? In terms of empowering the team, I really have a portfolio ownership approach in the sense that, and this probably comes from my days growing up in investment banking, where I had a set of clients and a product that I was marketing to them. And, it was kind of a matrix effect of making sure I knew the most about my clients as well as the product and how the product would apply to them. It's really about knowing your role and then having a portfolio approach of ownership. You own the issue area. If it's an operational role, you own all of those controls and things that you need to do. And this is really for the most senior to the most junior person in the groups, meaning if you update a database every day, that is your role. Make sure that you own it and are accountable to it. And I want, therefore, folks to have the latitude to decide how they want to best execute in that role and the innovations and improvements they can take within that, so they can put their own stamp on that. So I give folks the accountability for that execution, but also the credit. And so that, you really have that real sense of empowerment that the way this is going to go end to end is really important. I really want folks, and regardless what role you have, is to really be students of, I used to call it students of the market, really students of the domain in which you operate, and really expertise yourself. In our case, it's understanding the motivations of the regulators. Why are they asking me for this sensitive data? How does it help them do their jobs? What's the impact to our environment from outside forces? And how is JP Morgan meeting those needs with the controls? And then the other piece that's imperative in our world, and I would say it's relevant to any role, is really looking around corners. So how do we stay in front to minimize, whether that's minimize costs, minimize surprises, minimize more friction in the system? So, as I said, importantly, that's not just in a tech risk control or tech risk engagement role, but really, I think in any seat that you sit in, junior to most senior leader in the organization.
Thank you for sharing, Katheryn. Can I ask, how do you measure the impact of your leadership on these technology risk engagements? And do you use any strategies to continuously improve your leadership effectiveness?
Yeah, the quick answer is if we're accomplishing our priorities in a timely way, and folks are enriched and having fun, that's the best measurement for me. And thinking proactively throughout, of course, that's really hard to quote unquote measure, and that's more of a sense of the organization and making sure those priorities are, of course, empirical. data. But, a lot of folks are always like KRIs, KPIs. Metrics are hard in this space. We count where we can things, and whether that's regulatory engagements that we do across the globe, whether that's client engagements, but that's really as a way to make sure we have the right staff to accommodate a space, which is increasing the burden on the firm, or we're counting to, really put pressure on ourselves to come up with more innovative and efficient ways to do things, so that we're relaying senior leadership the overall burden on the firm. Other than that, I think that measurement in and of itself is a little tougher because we just don't have that much empirical data in this space. Continuous improvement for me is, especially because I have changed roles, public, private, academic, through my career, is trying to learn what's the best way for people to work and how people want to work in the space that you're in. So I try to have a lot of conversations, not just with my peers, but especially with my team. I do skip level meetings with my team so I can hear what their needs are, just to get a rounder sense, and also to make sure the teams know I'm supporting them. So really trying to get feedback from different parts of my organization. We have empirical studies of management excellence and others here at the firm, which I study very, very hard to make sure I have a sense of the group. And what's challenging and fascinating about my role is leadership takes different approaches in many of the different regions that we operate in. Sometimes I've asked my team in other countries, am I acting a little too American right now? Like the forceful, let's get it done, let's drive to the end, or do I need to be taking a bit of a different tact in terms of getting folks to come along for the journey? So I think, always listening, asking the right questions, and getting feedback, and kind of studying the evolution of the workforce and the place that I'm in is super important.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Katheryn. All right, I'm going to be moving over to Zarina now. Zarina, what are some of the key challenges that you faced, if you faced any, when you were transitioning from government to your current role in the corporate world? And how did you overcome them?
It's a great question, and there are definitely lots of challenges there because the government and private sector are two different worlds entirely, which I'm sure Jaleesa could attest to, having come over from the military. The biggest challenge for me overall was probably the learning curve of joining a new sector. Given I was coming from a national security mission in the government and had very little crossover with anyone in finance, I really had no experience with the financial sector prior to joining JPMC. So it really meant digging in, having a sense of curiosity, working to learn about all the various lines of business at JPMC, how the global financial system works, and how interconnected we are with it. It's still very much a learning journey for me today, but I've found that leaning in and making a concerted effort to engage folks in other business lines and learn about what they do, listening to the expertise of some of my counterparts at other firms who have been in this space much longer than me, have been great ways for me to develop in my role. Like Katheryn mentioned, I interact with her team a lot, and I think I learn something new every time I talk to them, which is great. So having that sense of curiosity and eagerness to learn is really important for that. There's also the notion of carving out your path and how you'll contribute to the broader team. In the government, and especially the intel community, your day-to-day job is pretty defined. You work a particular mission, you have your particular skill sets. So how you spend your time day-to-day is generally pretty straightforward. When I joined JPMC, I really had the opportunity and autonomy to define how I would operate in my role because the job wasn't super defined. So that was something I really wasn't used to. It's a little scary at first because you worry about how you'll hone your skills and make an impact and contribute to the mission. But I found when I thought about and took some of those core skills I learned in the government, such as external relationship building, I could really advance my position and make it impactful for the firm in a positive way. And maybe the last thing I'd highlight is the idea of boundary setting in the Intel community, because you're working in a secure environment day to day. When you leave for the day, that's pretty much it, with the exception of emergencies or urgent issues. You leave work at work. That's not to say I didn't have a couple late nights or weekend work emergencies, but for the most part, you kind of turn your work brain off for a bit. In the private sector, and especially in security operations, you're very accessible. You might be dealing with after-hour situations, like Katheryn mentioned. We're all over the globe, so there's always something going on 24/7. So I found that it's important to develop those boundaries and be sure I carve out dedicated time for family and other interests and make sure I communicate those needs.
Thanks for sharing, Zarina. I think you touched upon this question, the next one that I had a little bit. But if there's anything else that you may want to add in particular, which is how do the lessons learned from the government career influence your approach to the external engagements, and how do they help you lead with purpose?
Yeah, I spent several years in engagement roles where I was actually deployed from my home agency to another agency. So I really saw firsthand the power of bringing different resources and skill sets together to enable mission outcomes. And that's probably where I saw some of the best successes that I had during my time in the Intel community. Probably the most important thing I learned during that time was that it was essential to build strong trust relationships with my colleagues, because that really led to the mission success. So that was everything from getting to know your colleagues on a personal level, leaning forward and sharing information, even when there was really no guarantee of getting anything in return, building those bridges, always finding a common end goal to work towards. And that's a philosophy I've carried into my current role, where I really try to focus on relationship development with external and internal partners, because I know it would be essential to success in my job. It's also something I carried into my leadership positions in my later years at the National Security Agency. I knew that building a strong team with a sense of mission purpose meant cultivating an environment where my team could allow their individual skills to shine through and also feel empowered to bring new ideas forth. So that just, requires developing strong relationships with employees, bringing together folks with diverse backgrounds and skills, and really allowing them to do the jobs that they're there to do.
No, absolutely. I totally second that. Building, strong relationships at work is it's not just, especially in the cybersecurity space, like it's essential not just to survive, but to thrive in your career, right? I'm going to ask folks to start asking your questions, and we will be addressing them one by one. But I'm going to take one more question. I'm going to ask all the panelists to answer, which is around balancing self-care and leadership. As we know, cybersecurity, just the field itself is very dynamic. That the threat landscape, like it changes very frequently, and it's very demanding as well, right? So I'm going to start by asking Katheryn, how do you prioritize self-care into your leadership routine, and what advice do you have for others in the same leadership positions to maintain their well-being?
I always have this, this short one answer, and then I'm like, maybe that's not the right answer. I'm not sure how well I do this. That's the truth, the deep, deep truth. I think you mentioned it, Annie, in terms of cybersecurity. We're really, depending on your role, you really are potentially on call 24 hours a day. I just harken back. Everybody read in the press the CrowdStrike incident that took down airlines and airports and whatnot. Those phones started ringing at 2:30. Maybe 3:15 a.m. Eastern time for me on a day like that. And then those days are, thank goodness, few and far between, but it does happen. I think one is take the moments that you do have and make sure you craft them to do things you just really love to do. And if you love to sit on your couch and read a book, do that. If you love going out and running half marathons, do that. Just find deep enjoyment in what that is, and just make that time for you. For me, it's as simple as going out and throwing a football with my young son, which I did this weekend, and getting outside, fresh air, regardless if it's 20 degrees or 95 degrees outside. For me, that's my great joy. I make sure I get outside each day. I walk most of my commute to the office, and that is to, whether I'm on the phone almost the entire way, I'm still out kind of getting the sights and the sounds of New York City, which I enjoy, and I make sure I walk home, get walking in every day as well. The biggest of all of this is everybody has vacation. All of us have different amounts of that. Take your vacation. There is no glory in 2025 for the person who does not take your vacation. You'll hear Jamie Dimon say it. If you don't take your vacation, that's on you, not on the firm. So really take that time for yourself. Take those days that you're allotted and give yourself that break. And we build teams for a reason. Even if you're an independent contributor, you should have built in, or you should ask to have that kind of backup for yourself when you are out, because we're all able to take that time out, or put it on your boss to back you up when you're out. I have covered many paternity and maternity leaves over the years for my team because I really wanted them to get that time off for themselves.
Thank you so much, Katheryn. Zarina, do you have any advice? You did touch upon this a little bit too, but anything you want to add for
Yeah,
our audience?
definitely. I think self-care is really important and essential to being an effective leader. I'm kind of with Katheryn. Like, I don't know that I'm actually very good at this. It's just hard to implement, with the distractions and running out of time and getting overwhelmed. But I try to bring the things to my life that will kind of help ground me and allow me to focus on things outside of work. And I really try to incorporate those things every day. For me, that's family time. I have a young daughter, a baby on the way, and getting time outside, prioritizing a good night's sleep. Those are things that are super important to me. And the advice I would give others is really, draw those boundaries, set aside the time to do those things that help you reset. And make sure you do it in a way that you model it to your teammates. I think it's really important to incorporate those things into your life as regularly as you can, so you can bring your best self to work and into leadership. I also look for ways to incorporate some of my self-care interests into my job at JPMC too. So, for example, I'm in a business resource group focused on green issues and sustainability. That's a topic that's really important to me and something I spend a lot of time on outside of work. So I found that that's a really fulfilling way for me to show up at work, because it allows me to expand my community, give back to the community, and look at some of those other interests, make new friends, learn about what other people are doing at the firm. So that's been a really good practice for me.
Thank you, Zarina. Jaleesa? We cannot hear you. No.
How about now?
Yes.
Lord. Thank you. Okay, so when I was in the military, I used to mission chase, right? So that means sometimes I would be in the building from 11, 14 hours, however long they needed me. And a part of transitioning out of the military, it was having full autonomy of my schedule. And it's a little scary at first, but I was very clear on I didn't have control, and I wasn't allowed have the privilege to set boundaries in the military, because when they needed me, and I had to go, right? So one thing that I got really clear on is like my hours. I'm also a mom too, so I would block my schedule because I got to do pickup and drop off, I've also incorporated accountability partners. My mentors, my peers, my close network, if they see me on at 7 o'clock at night, they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Okay, that's about, I need to, I have people holding me accountable." And then one thing I do to start my day, and I'm going to show you, is I write a to-do list of the top 5 things that I need to accomplish for that day to feel successful or feel productive. And if I don't get to the list, I try to give myself the most amount of grace possible, but it's my guiding light to show what I need to do for the week, and it sets the tone, and that's been very helpful for me. But as Zarina said, aligning yourself to the things that you like to do outside of work and try to bring them into work. So things like this bring me joy. There wasn't a lot of people that looked like me in cybersecurity, right? And I find every opportunity to give back to the community, to women, to vets, neurospicy people. I do my best to represent all the communities I'm a part of and try to be an ally. So that's how I accomplish it.
Oh, thank you so much, Jaleesa. So, I was thinking about this question myself, and I was like, well, what kind of advice can I give, right? And I thought to myself, I was like, I'm probably like the worst person to give advice for this, because when I first started, I was very ambitious. I started in the corporate world, and like cybersecurity a little late. I became a mother when I was really young. So I do have an 18-year-old boy now who's going to be going to college, which is very exciting. But when I started, I was so ambitious and it felt like I wanted to conquer the world. And I can tell you that burnout is very real. And if you're not mindful and if you're not careful with your work hours, it can have an impact on your mental and physical health. So make sure, especially when you're starting, because I know that we have a lot of folks, in the WiCyS community who are interested in cybersecurity and who want to get into cybersecurity, that you are, balancing your time of work and your personal time, whether it's with family and with friends, because I can guarantee you that the work in cyber is always going to be there, right? It's never going to go away. So just make sure that you're, taking your time and spending time with family and whatever it is that brings you. Sure, work brings us joy as well, but it's important to disconnect so you're not in that constant, state of mind thinking about work. All right, so with that, we are going to move over to the questions. There are a lot of, I was reading through this as you all were, answering the questions. Very interesting questions. There is one that is on the top, the first one for Zarina. I may not be going in order, by the way. Some questions came in before, but I'm prioritizing them. So if we don't answer your question, during the time that we have now, we can, answer them after, like, offline as well. So please do not be, sad or disappointed, okay? All right, so we have a question from Betty. This question is for Zarina. It sounds like you didn't have any financial services experience. How were you able to change industries without prior experience in that industry?
It's a great question. For me, it was really knowing the skills that I had gained in my government job and seeing how I could apply those into the sector. There are a lot of, in cybersecurity especially, there's a lot of crossover between sectors. So it's not like a completely, like I'm going and, I don't know, performing surgery on someone or anything like that. So once I knew I could just bring those core skills in, like I mentioned, really getting to know the organization, interacting with people across teams, leaning on those who have been in this field for a long time to learn as much as I could. Those were the best ways for me to really learn and grow in a new sector. And it's still an ongoing journey for me. I probably will never fully understand the sector as well as someone like Katheryn does. But, I do my best, try to meet new people and have a curiosity.
I think that's all one what one needs, right? You don't have to know everything, and you learn on the way. So thank you, Zarina. We have someone who wants to know, and this is something we should definitely highlight. If somebody wants to connect with any of you, what is the best way?
LinkedIn. Yeah.
LinkedIn? Okay, so we will be sharing the LinkedIn with the folks. I'll connect with Rosalie and I'll get the LinkedIn URLs for all the panelists here, and we can share them with the attendees. The next question that I have is, what kind of networking do you ladies do to get yourself in rooms that you want to be part of? Any practical tips for us? Katheryn, do you want to take on this question?
Yeah, I was going to jump. There was a comment I was going to make a little earlier. Is just about expanding your own horizons, and Zarina alluded to speaking with stakeholders across the firms. I think when you have this role, whatever the role may be, speak to people about it. It's like the old-fashioned water cooler talk. Like, what are you working on today? What are you working on today? And you'll find your network will grow pretty quickly. And the most important thing is when there's someone, especially in a big place like JP Morgan, you can have 4 people off in a corner talking about something that you actually can help them advance their agenda very quickly. And they'll remember and they'll say, oh, wait, Katheryn was working on something that sounds similar to that. Give her a call. So be really open. I mean, unless, of course, you're doing deep undercover work, which, obviously, if you're working in classified information, that's not a great thing to share, of course. But within your own organizations and even amongst your friend networks, because then doors open to rooms. So in the sense that you can get yourself to a series of tables by letting folks know what you're working on and asking them what they're working on. And more often than not, you may be able to find some connectivity that you can enrich each other's performance and interests and curiosities and continue to grow as well.
Thank you. That's great tip, Katheryn. Speaking of expanding the horizon, right? Someone asked a question, how can I expand my horizon in cybersecurity with AI? Anybody wants to take this on?
I can try. So at the firm, they've started this initiative to create a AI team, threat modeling co-pilot. And I was nervous at first, to be completely honest. Threat modeling is not something that can be fully automated. And in my role, I had to get over my nervousness, and I had to just jump in. And one of the things that I did best is I train. That's one thing I'm known for. I'm a good trainer. And the AI and these large language models, they need to be trained. So what we did was provided all the documentation that we had regarding threat modeling to that team, to the co-pilot team, the process, training documents, you name it, questionnaires. We provided it all, and we have worked closely with that product team to provide areas of improvement and things to focus on. So one, I would suggest looking for those projects within your realm. There's training out there for how to get into AI, and you have to determine what part of AI do you want to do. Are you building an agent? Do you want to create your own? I will figure out what it is that you want to do and let people know that you're interested in it, and they'll come find you. AI is a vastly growing and expanding part of cybersecurity. We will all have a role in it. So that's my suggestion.
No, great advice. I will also highlight, I think it's a great point to first understand what it is that you want to do within the AI space. So you can, target the, like that specific training that can help you into the space that you want to get into. The other thing that I will highlight here as a WiCyS board member is that there is AI learning series program that WiCyS, the applications for that is currently open. It's for mid-career professionals. I will highly encourage you to apply for that. I have applied for it myself too. And I'm fingers crossed, hope that I get in. But I think that would be a great program. They have, description of what you're going to be getting out of that program. So I will highly recommend to check that out as well on the WiCyS website under the training programs. All right. Let's see. So Jaleesa, I can see that you're also answering questions in the chat. Thank you so much for that. There was one. Okay, so how to progress in our career, especially when we are stuck at a senior analyst role for more than 5 years. Does anybody have any tips? I can add a little bit. Zarina, do you wanna take this one on?
Yeah, this was something that came up a lot in government. And when I was in leadership roles, I would try to identify opportunities for those employees to either cross-train or develop in new skills. Usually when you have a manager who understands what your core skill sets are, they can identify ways that you can really grow and things that you can move into. So I would say talk to your leadership about those types of opportunities. You know, just be willing to learn something new if that's what interests you. And yeah, there's
Yep.
lots of things out there in cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also add to that and say, don't stay stuck, right? I think like our career, it's in our hands, and we should never give that, ownership to anyone else. Sure, we trust our leaders and we can communicate what it is that we want, but at the end of the day, if you are not getting what you want, then you can, explore other avenues and opportunities. Um, whether it's within the firm or whether it's outside of the firm, really depending on what your goals are. Um, the next question that I have here, how did you know which industry you wanted to enter when choosing your first and or next roles?
I have the best answer for this. I got into cybersecurity by accident. That's the completely honest to goodness truth. It happened by accident. When I was a junior airman, I worked on this project to automate this very labor intensive process. And my mentor, to who I have in respect to this day, she pulled me aside. It was the day it went live. She said, "Okay, what's next?" I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Do you not realize what you just did?" No, no, ma'am. What are you talking about? She said, "You just worked yourself out of a job. You've replaced yourself with a computer. What are you going to do?" And I was dumbfounded in that moment. And I was like, I'm celebrating. It just went live a few hours ago, ma'am. She didn't let me have it. And she's okay, these are options. And she recommended this course called the Joint Cyber Analysis course. And at the time, it had the highest attrition rate. It had 85% attrition rate. I didn't know anything about computers. I can still barely map a printer to this day, but I can tell you all the DLLs needed to map said printer. And I took a chance. I was like, well, what happens if I fail? She's like, if you fail, we'll come back and we'll figure out something else. And turns out I graduated with honors. And that step led me to the job that I have now, saying yes to opportunities that feel right, even though they may be scary, but evaluating those roles that come up to you and say, okay, I think I can do it. If someone has faith in you, tap into that faith, borrow a little bit. And that's how I got into cybersecurity. And I know that decision in Maryland over almost dang near a decade ago is the reason why I'm sitting here in front of you today. So,
Hey, Jaleesa,
saying yes to
will you add how then financial services? All the cybersecurity, you took all your cybersecurity talent and you brought it to another, you applied it in another industry. Why financial services?
Why? Oh, this also funny. When I got out of the military, I was first a government contractor. I did the same thing for the same people, just in cuter clothes. That's what I tell everyone. And then my captain was like, "Hey, kid, do you need a job?" And it was in Houston. And I didn't say very much other than, yeah. I had no idea what I was applying for, but I knew I wanted to come to Houston. My family was in Houston. He said that they needed people with Intel and cybersecurity backgrounds. That's me. And I said yes. I did not know 4 years ago the world in which I was stepping into. To Zarina's point, I'm still learning about the financial sector. I still feel behind, but I have aligned myself to leaders in this space that have been in the firm for 10, 15 years, that have been successful. And I pick their brains. I have those skip level meetings that Katheryn was mentioning. I network laterally because I do feel that my peers that have been here longer than me have a wealth of knowledge. So that's was my take. But I didn't choose the financial sector on purpose. I didn't know at the time.
Jaleesa, your voice disappeared.
Just lost her. We lost you, Jaleesa, at the best part.
There. I don't know.
I didn't know. I thought I can only do that job for the government. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I didn't know that the financial sector needed me. I didn't know that healthcare needed cybersecurity people. There's so many industries that are reliant on cybersecurity, and it has forced me to go learn what cybersecurity means in the civilian world. So I've been blessed to have the best mentors, the best people in my network that are always continually to look out for me, and I do the same.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Jaleesa. Very inspiring. I think sometimes you just need to, take a chance and step in, right? And then really take it, learn on the go, right? Katheryn, I have next question for you. What were some of the most helpful things you did early in your career that helped you grow into a leadership role in the cybersecurity?
Oh, interesting. I think well, one, I have a degree in international affairs, which I never had used. So I'm bringing that deeply to play each and every day in my job as I think about the dynamics between international economics, national security, geopolitics. So one, that degree, you wonder if it's ever going to come back around. If you may not be using it today, someday it will come into use. I think that I had the opportunity to serve in government where I spent a lot of time writing and being able to digest policy statements into one-pagers, two-pagers for the highest levels of government to make decisions. We underestimate the power of the pen and the need for precision in that space. It is very hard to write controls that folks can follow if they're written poorly and without precision. So I think, and when I grew up in investment banking where my most expression by paper was on a PowerPoint slide, which didn't say much and had more numbers, figures, and graphs and charts than actual text. So really cultivating the power of the pen, it's so, so important. Just think about everything that we do with incident reports and communicating to seniors and to board governance in any corporation, especially in cyber, taking more and more time there. Were some things that I learned through my career. And then something I wanted to say about empowering people, and it comes right here from myself, is cybersecurity is a game of chess. It's really not checkers. And so as we're turning the dials on understanding the threat actors, understanding the compliance requirements we have in this complex landscape that we operate in, as we think about controls, as we're executing, we have to think 2-3 steps ahead in everything that we're doing. And I go back to everything from cost to burden to efficiently, ruthlessly being efficient and making sure we're prioritizing what people work. So I think a lot of the policy work that I've had to just absolutely pinpoint if we do X, what will happen, Y, Z, and how do we make sure we mitigate those risks as well. All of that really has to be thought through, I think, in this space especially.
Thank you. Thank you, Katheryn. Let's see. This is an interesting question that we have here. Someone is asking, during my time in the military, I worked on top secret projects. How do you translate your experience without giving too many details? I see Zarina smiling, so I'm sure Zarina has some input here.
Yeah.
Lisa.
So the great thing about cybersecurity is it applies everywhere. Like Jaleesa said, this it's in every industry. You know, it's not just about the government and national security. We also work national security issues in the private sector too. So when you think about translating those core skills, those competencies, like those are applicable everywhere, and they don't necessarily need to be tied to any classified information. So when you're building a resume to come out of the government, like you'd be surprised how much you could actually squeeze in, even if you worked in a classified environment. You just have to think creatively. Jaleesa probably has more on this too.
Yes, I just put in the chat. One thing, I also struggle for that. My job was a secret inside of a secret inside of a secret, right? So what I had to do was identify and highlight that I have a firm understanding of the cybersecurity fundamentals, such as I understand operating system fundamentals. I know how to do network analysis, vulnerability assessments. So I had to identify the jobs I wanted, the skills that they were looking for, and look at my experience and how that translated. I didn't give any details because, as you know, there's so many layers of getting a resume through pre-pub, but just highlighting the industry best standards and showcasing that within your work.
I think
Thank
this
you
is
so
one
much,
of the most
Jaleesa.
complicated landscapes, especially even going forward. And for instance, Zarina still operates deeply in the classified realm on behalf of JP Morgan. And I am in the unclassified realm, but yet we get information through informal channels, which is, as you all know, the power of cybersecurity is information sharing through informal channels as much as the formal channels that we have. And I was in an elevator today with our CISO and our deputy CISO, and we were talking about something that we had information, and then I realized, I'm like, wait a second, do we know that? It was an informal channel of information. Not sure necessarily if I did not know the source of it, but I knew maybe it was questioning where, so it was one of these moments where we were reminding each other, compartmentalizing the information that you have, whether from your past life or your present life, is so important in this space because we're filled with so much relay of information, communication, and being careful in terms of the sourcing and whatnot is really important. So these folks are dealing it with their past lives, but also still dealing with it in their current lives as well.
Thank you so much. We are on time. So I'm gonna end the questions here. I know that there are still a lot of questions that we were not able to answer. I will get with Rosalie to understand the best way to respond to them. But thank you so much to everyone that joined us today. Thank you so much to the panelists, Katheryn, Zarina, Jaleesa. You're all awesome. We will be sharing the LinkedIn details of the panelists to the audience as well. But thank you for joining us, and we hope that you gained valuable insights on how to lead with purpose.